Hello everyone and welcome. We're really fortunate to have some world-class speakers here tonight, all the way from the United Kingdom to talk to us about the Ro Crow and falcon training. As I think back, for those of us that have been flying large long wings for any length of time, we've gone through a lot of iterations in training methods and training tools to get our birds to fly high. You know, a lot of us started with the fast pigeon, slow pigeon, then the kite came along, we went with the kite, then the helium balloon, and if you all remember those big helium tanks that we used to haul around the back of our truck, and a lot of people bought a trailer and hauled around their weather balloon. Then the drone came along, and for the drone, the thing that scared me the most was having those blades at the very beginning when I was just learning to drone my falcons, having those blades spinning up there for fear that my bird was going to get chopped up by them. There's two things that particularly interest me about the Ro Prey and the Ro Crow. If you think about it, if you've got a drone or a balloon up in the air, and the bird looks up and it sees it, and it starts climbing up to that lure, it really can sort of climb at its own leisure. Do we really reach the cardiovascular potential of the bird by having them climbing up to that lure that's being hung from a drone? And that's one of the things that really interests me about what we're going to hear about tonight, because it potentially can bring out the cardiovascular genetic potential that the individual bird has, because they have to be in pursuit. And when we're training falcons, we want them power on. You want that bird power on when you serve it. And with these, the bird has to be power on at all times. So tonight we have Dave Whittingham and Dr. Nick Fox, who's going to be making the presentation. And for Dave Whittingham is a very respected and accomplished falconer with a career spanning more than 35 years and a reputation built on skill, innovation, and generosity in sharing knowledge. He began his falconry journey at 12 years of age, a passion that quickly developed into a lifelong vocation. Over the decades, he's flown both long wings, short wings, at a high standard, and successfully hunted most legal game in the United Kingdom. Dave is also widely recognized for his ability to communicate complex ideas in an accessible and engaging way. He's authored numerous regarded articles on imprinting and training goshawks, drone training long wings, and the use of hunt, point, and retriever dogs in falconry and in shooting. A sought-after speaker who has delivered talks and lectures across the United Kingdom, Dave is at the forefront of the rapidly growing world of Ro falconry and falcon racing. Dr. Nick Fox, this is a long one, believe me, and everybody knows about Nick. But Nick is a British wildlife biologist, falconer, conservationist, farmer, author, based in West Wales. He is widely respected for his lifelong work with birds of prey, particularly falcons, and for pioneering practical conservation and wildlife management initiatives internationally. His work spans over 50 years, and I'm going to just summarize some of this, and that is that he's collaborated on major field research and conservation programs for falconers and raptors across Mongolia and Siberia, China, Pakistan, Russia, New Zealand, reintroduction of the red kite in Wales and beyond, founding the Raptor Association of New Zealand, founder of the Middle East Falcon Research Group, director of the Hawk Board, United Kingdom, and he's the master of the Northumberland Crow Falcons, a position that he's held from 1992, and this group is widely recognized as the oldest mounted falconry group in Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our speakers.
So I'm going to spend about 45 minutes or so talking to you about the Ro Crow training. For those of you not familiar with a Ro Crow or Ro Crow, this is it. I may well refer to it as Ro Crow through there, but Ro Crow comes in many different forms. We've got the Ro Duck, we've got a Ro Grouse, we've got a Ro Gull, we've got a Ro Barra, which is a hoop barra. We've got several. We've also got a Ro Peregrine that's used for abatement work that we'll come on to later. But these models can be painted up to look like whatever quarry species that you actually want it to look like. So, I'll just move this out of the way. So, as you'll notice through this, I'm not a professional speaker, so you'll have to bear with me as I go through it and keep this microphone in the right place. Right. So, Ro Crow training. What is Ro Crow? So, the Ro Crow is quite simply a law, just like any other. So, like a swing law, drone, a bull-X, I know they have a bull-X over here. Bull-X is a drag law off a machine, quite commonly used in the UK with red tails, harrisauks, eagles, things like that. Or just a dummy bunny pulled along the line, or a dead bunny you would have here just pulled along the line. It is just a law for your falcon, and when you're training, you need to use it as such, just as a law. So that really sums up what it is as a tool. It's a tool that a falconer can use to train their falcon to gain fitness as you would with a swing roll or any other type of law. Okay, a little bit about the history of this, and this is taken out of Nick's book. If you haven't seen it, it is on our table in there if anybody wants to have a look through it. In 1964, Van Beek commented in his journals on what an advantage it would be to have a controllable flying bird law, but they had no way back then of how to actually build one. In 1979, a very famous falconer in the UK, Ronald Stevens, tried a flapping bird model sent to him by Henry Tyler Swain, trying to fly his kestrels at it, but it wasn't very successful again because the technology wasn't really there and the build quality wasn't there. So in 1994, Nick Fox started putting this idea forward, consulting people on coming up with what he called his wish list, which consisted of a bird that had around a 940mm wingspan, around 550 grams, could maintain an airspeed of about 15 metres per second, a flight time of 5 minutes or thereabouts, was able to survive an aerial attack from a falcon, and that was obviously going to be a big stumbling block over what was already available with foamy models coming onto the market around then for RC enthusiasts that were very fragile and they hit the floor and they broke. So that would be a big one to overcome. It had to be fully radio controlled and it had to look and resemble real prey. So the first one that came out was very much directed at the Arab market, which was the V1 Ro Barra. It was much bigger, it had flapping wings, it was a 1200 4-foot wingspan, traditional surface control, so you had a rudder, an elevator, and ailerons on the wings, but there were certain limitations with it, with the different servos in place, the control rods, the control surface, it was prone to breakages, and it was also quite difficult to fly. I've actually got one of these that Nick gave me a few weeks ago, and I haven't had it out of the box yet, but I'm going to have great fun trying to get it in the air and actually fly it in the spring. So along came the V2 Ro Crow, which is still what we've got here now, which has been in production for quite a number of years. It was designed by Remy Van, I can't pronounce his surname, I can never pronounce it, what was it? Wick. Remy Van Wick and Dr. Nick Fox between them. It was based on an EDF jet, which was commonly used for RC enthusiasts. So inside the Ro Crow, it's got a 50mm ducted fan, which you can see in the fuselage there, which is protected by a front guard. There's a carbon fibre ring at the back to protect the back, which creates an exhaust tube through the actual motor. So there's no moving parts there that the bird can touch. It can't get its talons in. There's a guard to stop the jesses going in. So it's taken a long time to think out how this can be safe for a falcon to actually catch in flight. It needed a detachable wing. So if a wing got broken, it could be easily changed for another one on that day. The wing could be taken home and then easily repaired back at home. It also needs to come off for transport, because having that in your vehicle travelling around is quite a large unit to do so. So the wing comes off, it's just held on with a band. So there's a locating pin under here, so the wing just slits into the collar, the back end pushes down, the band goes around it and holds it on. I can show you that in the other room if anybody's interested how it does it. Then inside the model there's a 6-axis self-leveling gyro. Now, what this does, this is quite a key point to this, is that when you first fly the Ro Crow, RC planes are notoriously difficult to fly for beginners. So this is basically what they would call a safe select mode within the RC world. So if you watch the control surfaces, the ailerons, these two bits here, this is awkward, one hand. As I tilt the model, and I'll do this from behind as well, you can see that this aileron on the left-hand side here, that's lifted up in the air. What that's trying to do as this is flying along is push this wing back down into there. So as the air hits that, it's pushing that wing back down, pushing you back to level. So as you see when I drop it, the ailerons lift. That's again pushing the back of the model down, keeping you flat and level. So it's very easy to fly for beginners because it wants to fly itself flat and level. So when you get into trouble, if you're trying to fly it and the wind gets it or the falcon's attacking it and you're twisting and you're turning, if you go, oh wait, which one? You just let go, the model will self-level, and then you can just take control again. So when you get stuck, let go, and it comes back. So that's a very important point that makes this very, very user-friendly for people. So complete beginners who've never flown RC in their lives can come along, basically watch our training videos on it, familiarise yourself, go out, go through the pre-safety checks, throttle it up and throw it, and the Ro Crow will fly away from you flat and level. You give it an input of right or left, and it will turn, and within usually a 15-minute session, I can get somebody competent to fly on their own, and lots of people do this on their own, in their own time. They just buy the model, watch the videos, and go away and fly it. It has to be easily repaired and easily replaced parts, because things do go wrong, things do break, and with it being used for its intended purpose, with the falcon catching it, your upright fin here, this is quite a one. If the falcon catches it and it comes down on its back, it can come off here. So this is a separate part. These are available on the website. Most people who fly Ro Crows will keep a spare. If it does break, you can easily glue this one back on. If it breaks across the EPP foam, you can glue it back together. If you lose it, because often it'll go over, a piece will come off and you can't find it, you can either use an old one, or you can simply put another one on. They're about $10 each, and glue it back into place with the glue that comes with it, or with hot glue. So it's very easily repaired at home or out in the field. It's not a big tragedy if you break it like it is with a model plane. This model here, this is the standard model. This has also got a GPS unit mounted in the back of it. The GPS has a return to home feature on it, so you flick a switch on the controller, the model will turn and it will come back to the point that you set it to. Now this is a big thing to remember if you do fly one of these and want to use this feature, it comes back to where you set it to. So if you flew it a week ago, 5 miles away, and you flick it into that mode, it's going to fly back 5 miles down the road. It's not going to come back to you. When it does come back, it will circle overhead. You do need to keep your eye on it though, because if you haven't got enough throttle on every circuit, it will lose altitude. If you've got too much throttle on every circuit, it will climb. So if you put it down, look away, get your falcon, it could have climbed another 100, 150 feet to be out of position where you want it. So it's a great feature on there. Not many falcons I know fly actually use it that much, but the ones that do say it is a really good feature to have. And we've also got a retrofitted air brake. Now I haven't got one with me with this feature on, but at the back, just behind the wing, there's a servo that comes across that holds the wing in place. There's a different mount at the front, and when you flick another switch on the controller, the wing will actually pop up, which creates drag. So if the falcon catches you at altitude, 200, 300, 800 feet up, when it catches it, you pop that wing and it makes it very difficult for the falcon to carry it, bringing it down a lot quicker than it would be if it could just fly away with it. Okay, so we've got a V3 Ro Crow, which is the evolution of the technology within the RC world. So that controller there is a Spectrum NX8. It's the latest one out in this range from Spectrum. Now Spectrum's owned by Horizon Hobbies, which is an American company, so they're out here and are widely used worldwide, especially in America here. by RC enthusiasts. They're very easy to use, they're very reliable, and it gives it a few more features over the standard model, but it is designed and it is put towards somebody who's been flying a few years or somebody who's got RC experience. So it's giving you information back with the real-time aircraft telemetry. So it tells you the altitude of the Ro Crow. So as you're climbing and the Falcon's climbing with you, I will be listening to my GPS telling me how high the Falcon is. I will also be listening to the Ro Crow off the transmitter. It's telling me verbally every 10 seconds or every 15 seconds how high the Ro Crow is climbing to. So I know the Ro Crow is always above the Falcon, because at no time when I'm at altitude do I want the Falcon above me, because that's when I'm going to get caught. So I want it bringing up with me. It's also got a faster, more responsive motor in it. It's got fast action digital metal gear servos in the wings, and it's running on Spectrum's AS3X system, which is a very advanced stabilisation system. So that will be coming out in the spring this year, but I thought I'd put it in here and just mention it to you all, because I know there are a few people in the room with RC experience who have flown models before, and as soon as I mentioned this, they knew exactly what it was. Okay, Ro Crow what does Ro Crow give us as a training tool? So, in the UK, it's obviously different to over here because we can't wild trap birds over there. So everything we have is captive bred. So it's all chamber reared or imprinted. So when we get our birds going, unless it's come out of a hack pen, and we don't tend to wild hack at all, so we're coming out of a hack pen where they can go around in circles. So their knowledge of wind, twisting, turning, they've got to learn all these things. Now, this is developed for flying and hunting crows. So as a direct pursuit flight. So what we would do is we would spot the crows out in the field, get it set up, get in the position we want, look at where the tree lines are around, look at where the crows can get to for safety. And once we've got the slip right, we would just unhook the Falcon, slip the Falcon, and the Falcon would very quickly spot the crows and be off with them either on the floor or climbing. Excuse me. Once the Falcon's away, we would then want them to chase, ring with the crows, climb up with them, outfly the crows in the air, and then the crows would dive in, which is where you get the stoop, which is what we want to mimic with the Ro Crow. But in the early stages of training, with a young Falcon, and especially this is a young Goshawk I flew this year, the Ro Crow develops footing techniques. And what I noticed when I was flying him to it, and certain Falcons, because you're a lot closer to the flight than you would be if you flew a pheasant, where it's disappearing into the distance, he'd come up behind the model and he'd get to here very quickly and catch it up. But then you'd see this uncertain element and he'd just like tap his feet and he's like trying to work out, how do I catch this, how do I grab this? I'm not quite sure. And then he'd catch hold of it, or he'd swipe at it and miss, then he'd catch it and he'd bring it to the floor. After 2 or 3 sessions doing it, he very quickly learned, oh, this is how I grab it, this is how I attack it. And he can attack it from the side, and you'd see him attacking straight up underneath it, or you'd see him try and climb and catch it. But I can position this where I want it in these training stages, especially with a Falcon. You can position this model, and you can reward at the exact time you want to reward it. So you're teaching footing techniques, and as the training progresses through these early stages of training, you're teaching aerial positioning, you're teaching the Falcon how to attack its quarry, and you can reward at exactly the right time. So one of the things I will do is as I throw the Ro Crow away, and in one of the videos that was playing, I climb quite quickly away from me. As the Falcon climbs, if they climb out and they try to power over the top of me and succeed to do it, I'll reward that behaviour, because that's teaching the Falcon, if I can get over it, I'm going to catch it. I'm in the right position to force it towards the floor. So that's a behaviour I want to encourage him to do. And I can reward exactly when I want to. So in a while, if I was just flying that Goshawk, for instance, or a Falcon on a wild quarry, the pheasant that comes out in front of me could be a young pheasant, and it's going to get caught after 50 yards really easy, great confidence boost from my hawk, brilliant, feed up on it. It could be a 3-year-old cock pheasant that's wily and knows exactly what it's doing, and boom, it's into the distance, it's gone. And then the hawk goes, oh, I can't catch that. Now, if he chases it 200 yards, I can't see what happens at the end of that flight. So I don't know whether he caught it up and just couldn't foot it, whether he didn't grab it. Does he need to be lighter in weight? Does he need to be heavier in weight? Does he need to be fitter? You don't know at these stages when you go straight into wild quarry. But using this, we can teach the hawk and reward the hawk exactly when we want it to do, or the falcon exactly when we want to. We can build fitness, which is a big thing, and we can build confidence. So as we start to look at entering the bird onto crows with a falcon, we know the bird is fit. So what we would be looking for before I even actually take it out into the field and want to fly a crow, I would be looking for my falcon to chase this up to 800 to 1,000 feet without stopping beating its wings. And I would want it to be able to stoop after it, and I'd want it to be able to twist and turn and catch it, and really put me as a pilot under pressure. That way, when it chases its first crow, when it engages, I know it's got the fitness, it's got the skills, it's got the experience to twist and turn and actually catch that crow. Okay, so in these early stages, one of the first things I will do is I will introduce the bird to a normal traditional swing law, because I need to be able to get that falcon back. So that's at the start of it, that's my primary thing, is to train it as we would all train a falcon, get it come into a law. So once it's come to a law, this photo on the left here, we're actually showing the young falcon, the Ro Crow, with food on. So prior to this, we'd have fed on the Ro Crow. So I will literally call my bird to me when it's on the law, with a tidbit on the law, put some food on the Ro Crow, put the Ro Crow on the floor, let the bird jump onto the Ro Crow. So I'm developing a bond, as you would with any law, with a food association between the bird and the Ro Crow. As we progress on, in the photo on the left, I'd actually take the Ro Crow, as if I was going to fly with it, hold it in my hand, get somebody to hold the falcon, and show the falcon the law. Show the falcon the Ro Crow, and as it flies towards me, just grabs it and lands on it. And that's just a very simple way of getting the falcon introduced to it. But it's also preparing the falcon for it to be in my hand in that position, and it thinks it's just flying straight to me. The next stage we go to, then, is actually throwing the Ro Crow and flying it. So in the first instance, the hood would come off. I let the bird take off as if I'm going to catch the Ro Crow, as if it's going to land on it. I throw the Ro Crow and fly it, but what I would do is I would fly it quite low, quite slow, and I just want it to fly gently away from me. Most falcons will come up to where it would have landed and sort of go, oh, it's not there anymore, oh, it's there. And there'll be a little hesitation, then they'll pump after it. As soon as they're pumping after it, just keep it in flight, but keep it nice and simple, let the falcon grab it. An easy session. The next session would be a little harder, and then we would progress through harder and harder. One of the big things at these early stages, it's confidence building. We're not worrying yet too much about fitness. We want it to know, I can catch that. So it's gentle progression, and you have to keep the Ro Crow close to the falcon. Keep it engaged, so it's chasing, and you want that nice wing beat. You don't want to reward the falcon when it's gliding. If the falcon disengages, you need to wait for the falcon to come back to the Ro Crow, not fly underneath and go, hello, here I am. Because no crow would do that. Wild quarry wouldn't do that. So the bird needs to be engaged with the Ro Crow. So you have to become the prey, and you have to think how it would. And it's very easy for pilots to fly the bird, push too hard, and the falcon give up, set its wings and peel off. Then they go, oh, they fly the Ro Crow underneath it and try and re-engage the falcon. That wouldn't happen. You can drop lower and go round, and the falcon, oh, he's down there now, I can catch him now. Because if a falcon took the pressure off a crow would then go, oh, he stopped chasing me, I'm going to go in those trees, and it would drop naturally. That's okay, because you're displaying natural tendencies for the crow in that situation. The falcon would then well, catch that now, re-engage, come back into it. So, as we progress through it, it's very much a sort of learning curve for the bird, and then it comes down to the skill of the falconer as well, to know how hard it can push the bird. As we advance through this, and this is only talking about probably 2 to 3 weeks worth of flying, to get a bird going to 400-500 feet on this and keeping it engaged. As we come down out of that stoop, so the bird's followed us up, as it comes into the Ro Crow, I would want the bird sort of 20 metres behind. When I know I'm going to stoop, I will position the Ro Crow so I'm flying back into the wind and to the side of me so I can see it as a profile. I will then stoop the Ro Crow. The falcon will think like it would with a quarry. It's put me under pressure. I know I can't outfly this falcon, so I'm going to dive for cover. So with the Ro Crow, you dive for cover. The falcon, hopefully, with some falcons, they don't straight away stoop. They go, oh, where's he gone? They'll do a shallow stoop, we're looking for a big stoop. So we would reward the big stoop. But the falcon comes down behind you, level out, avoid the falcon, and then catch it. And this progresses on to then this chase at the end being more aerial. You would push harder, push faster, and really build the falcon's speed, stamina, and it learns how to cut corners. So what you'll do is as you come out to the stoop, you'll find falcons will come down, and rather than stooping right with you, they will pull out higher than you, knowing the ground's there, knowing that you're going to pull up, and then they'll come again. That in a hunting situation on a crow is a good technique for a falcon to use. It will push them under pressure and push them down towards the floor, and almost give them nowhere else to go. And they've put them in a kill zone, really. That they've pushed them down, and you've actually seen, and I think Nick might touch, depending on what he talks about at the end, that crows will give up, won't they, Nick? And they'll just sort of hit the floor and think, I'm dead. And they know they've got it. They know the falcon has outflown them. They know they're in trouble. So this is a geosaker that Nick bred that I've flown, which is ice, and that photo was actually taken as he's up and over after the Ro Crow in a roll, and he will get to the top and he'll just roll over. So we can get some quite advanced techniques in hunting that you can teach a young bird to do, using this before you go into the field to actually hunt wild quarry. Then we have to transition to wild quarry. So when we're training in this manner, I've found that a lot of the falcons are looking very close to you. So they're looking at you to threat. So the first time you want to hunt them with crows out there, they're not looking at the distance. So we can then use the Ro Crow at a distance to start making the falcon look further away. So you can unhook the falcon. Now I've seen, there's a video I was playing at the start, if anybody saw it, with Nick on a horse, because he flies on horseback obviously, slipping the falcon off the horseback, and the Ro Crow is positioned on a hill about, how far was it, Nick? About a quarter of a mile away? Somewhere? Little way. It was a little way out, and they throw the Ro Crow off the hill. So that's teaching the falcon to look further afield, to look out. So once that falcon has then been introduced to crow carcasses, because we can't obviously give bad game out there, we can't get pigeons like you can get pigeons and throw them out, it's illegal in the UK, so we've got no way of doing that. So whereas you would use, a crow on a line or something on a line to encourage the falcon, we can't do that. So we've got to come up with other techniques to be able to do a similar thing as you're doing here using the crow. So we teach the falcon to look out, and you would very much set the flight up where you would look where the crow can get to, and you would try and get the right flight. And I've driven around for ages looking for that right flight for that young falcon to try and give it the best chance it can get to get it into an quarry. And what I found before I flew a Ro Crow was that was a lot harder to do than with a falcon that is fit, it's strong, it's in perfect condition, it's muscled up, it's hungry, its metabolism is there because it's working really hard. Now I tend to fly every other day, so we give them a big workout one day, a big feed, high protein feed, not too much casting in there, so I'll be feeding pigeon quite a lot through mine. I feed some hare, I feed a variety of different food, quail being in there as well. Quail is a little bit fattier, so you wouldn't feed quite as much of it. But what I'm looking for as we're going through the advanced fitness stage is that when I put the bird on the scales, I want every day to have a little increase in weight. I don't really want to drop on those days when I've worked him hard. And that tells me that he's had enough calories from his food to, one, maintain himself, but also repair and grow muscles. So he's getting enough energy from his food to maintain, and it's gone up slightly. So he's got a surplus. It only has to be a little surplus, but he's got a surplus of food because his weight's gone up slightly. And that will grow, that will change into muscle, so he'll build muscle in that, but he'll also put a little bit of fat on. So I will do this for a series of days, let his weight creep up a little bit. Then at the end of that, I will give him less of a feed one day, and then what will happen is the fat that he's put on, he will use that because his muscles are working, his body won't want to use muscle tissue or any other tissue to actually give him that energy. He will take it from his fat reserve, and in this way I'm building muscle. Now, I'm never going to build loads and loads and loads of muscle through a season, and I found with pursuit falcons, I will probably only put 50 to 70 grams on a bird during this training, during these first few weeks, from when they start, when they go loose, and first start chasing the Ro Crow, I will come up probably 50 to 70 grams, and that weight will then pretty much maintain throughout their season, flying at the Ro Crow, and they're lean and they're fit, and their metabolism's going, and you can pump food through them. And this is the one thing I found with Ro Crow falcons, the falcons I've trained on a drone, is that the amount of food that these falcons eat is immense in comparison. I look back on some records a few months ago. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I looked back when I was feeding a female geoperegrine I trained on a drone, and she'd do 1,000, 1,200 foot on a drone, and her average food intake in December in the UK was around 90 grams of food. Yet my Ro Crow falcons, doing the same thing, was about 130 grams of food, which is a percentage is quite a lot more. And the only, I mean, obviously you're going to get differences in individual birds, but the only real difference I can see as a trend between the two is that they're chasing this. And this is a harder flight than chasing up that drone. They're working harder to actually get up there. They're working harder when they're actually chasing it around. And certainly this bottom part of the flight, as they're twisting and turning, they're having to use all the muscles in their body. They're putting the brakes on, they're turning really hard, and that's actually working their whole body in there. Now, this one you should have. Do we have a video in there? No, we haven't got a video in there. So the last, that slide there should have a video in there. Where's the video? No, that's a good start. Right, so FPV Ro Predator, I'll put that photo because it's a bit more entertaining than the black screen. The FPV Ro Predator, it's on the table in the other room. So we do a Ro Predator and FPV Ro Predator. The Ro Predator is basically a Ro Crow that's painted up like a peregrine, and it's used for abatement work. So in the UK it's getting more popular, certainly around airports, runways, situations where falcons are good, but they're not controllable enough. So if you've got gulls, crows, geese, anything like that on a runway, clearing them with a falcon works, but if you've got planes coming in and out every few minutes, you can't have a falconer running up and down a runway. I've just got to get the bird back and run it across a runway. So with the Ro Peregrine, what we can do is you can fly that out and actually attack and fly down at the groups of pigeons, gulls, whatever the pest species of birds that are sat out there. And because they don't know what it is, as long as you fly it in the right way, which is an important part of it, is that you climb out as a predator would over the top, or you do a long inbound flight at them, and as you get to them, you pull up over them, and you act like a predator would, which is falcons. We know how that is, so falcons are very good at doing this. The birds, the bird species you're trying to move don't know what this is, but it's acting like a predator, so they very quickly move. Now I've done quite a bit of testing with this system because with the FPV one, it's got a camera on the top, and I actually fly it with FPV goggles, so I can see where that's looking, which gives me an advantage if I'm trying to clear pigeons off a stubble field that the farmer's just planted up. I can actually see them from a long way away, and I can actually target them much better than I can via line of sight. So I've found that now on those fields I fly regularly on, if I get there with a model, whether it be a Ro Predator or any other flight model, as soon as they hear the engine, they're moving. So they're actually clearing the birds because they hear it coming, they hear the engine, and I don't have any problem with rooks, crows, pigeons, anything like my farm fields, because they used to be flying this Ro Predator at all the time. And they get really moved on by it, they get aware of it, and as soon as it goes up, You see pigeons lifting in the distance because I've chased them off with it, trying to get footage for our YouTube channel and our Facebook and things like that. So they've been quite persecuted by a road predator for quite a few months now. But obviously you guys do a lot of abatement work out here on vineyards and wine crops and fruit crops and things like that. Well, this is, you should look at this as an option to do with falcons and combine the two, because this is very controllable means of doing it. You can target species very well, and it just gives you something that you can do in situations where you can't fly your falcons. So this brings me on to Valley Falcon races. So is this our 8th year, Nick? This year will be our 8th year with Valley Falcon races. So the Falcon races brings a community of falcons. You can see how many children we've got in here. And we run 2 races. So we run a flat race, which is a 400-metre sprint, or telwar, which is what the Arabs do. If you ever see the Arab channels where they're racing their falcons down 400 metres, it's basically a law at the end of a 400-metre track, and you go through 2 timing gates, or you use the new Marshall GPS Pro system that is very good for this, and they've developed it for this. So as the bird flies out of the start gate, it flies through a laser beam, or the GPS picks it up, crossing a virtual start line. It flies 400 metres as fast as it can. You want the bird on the floor, really quick, down to somebody with a swing law or a pole law, and then it crosses another beam, or it meets the end of the virtual GPS at the other end, and it's timed. So we then do a competition to run this in the UK. It isn't the most exciting thing, if I'm honest, but the Arabs like it, and the Arabs breed lots of birds in the UK. So we do it to keep everybody happy. The main event is the hunt race, and the hunt race uses the Ro Crow. Now, I think last year we had over 100 entries in our hunt race categories. The hunt race starts in an arena, 100 metres square, with a crowd of people stood around you. You launch the Ro Crow and you let the falcon go. You then climb to 120 metres or 400 feet as fast as you can, with the Ro Crow, with the falcon chasing you up. Most of the competitors with a chance of winning are doing this within a minute, which is quite a quick climb rate. Depending on weather conditions, can be faster sometimes. I think the fastest we've had is about 40 seconds, isn't it, Nick? I think so. About 40, 42 seconds, I think, was one of the fastest climbs. Up to 400 feet. Once the GPS on the bird says the bird is at 400 feet or 120 metres, a horn sounds. The pilot then has to stoop into the arena with the bird chasing it. As soon as the bird passes 30 metres on the GPS, second horn sounds. The pilot then has to avoid the falcon for 30 seconds, and it has to land then in the arena. The bird has to catch the roadway off the ground. If the Ro Crow touches the floor, you're disqualified. The pilot has to line it up just right so the bird catches it and lands in the arena, and it's timed. So winning times are about 1 minute 40 to 1 minute 50 seconds to complete the course. And we have 3 days now of competitions at Nick's farm in Swindon. We have trailers there. It's very much like one of your meets here with a sky trial. It's a similar sort of event. We can't do a sky trial. We can't chuck pigeons out and things like that. So over the last 8 years, this has got more and more and more popular. More people are buying Ro Crows, and now we've got teams turning up with 15, 20 falcons between them to race as their team and individuals. It's becoming a huge thing all around the UK now. We have a similar thing you're having over here, access to quarry. For a few reasons, gamekeepers, because all our game, our pheasant and our partridge are released birds, managed by gamekeepers for the shooting industry. So they're charging people lots and lots of money to come along and driven shooting and shoot the game. So they don't really want you going on there hunting pheasant and partridge and things like that. So people are putting their own down. The land is becoming harder to find because of development, things like that. So natural quarry species such as rabbits have been in decline. So falconers in the UK, as you're finding over here, are finding it harder to find quarry and time restraints. People work, they have to go to work, you've got jobs, it's dark, in the winter it's dark when you come home. Ro Crow, and especially crow hawking for me, means On the days I'm working, or I've only got 20 minutes or an hour to fly my bird, I can go out with my team of birds, I can fly a Ro Crow in an hour. I've flown 4 birds, I've given them a really good workout. I can put them back in the truck, take them home. Next day, Ro Crow. Next day, I've got all day off. I'll go out and hunt. And it keeps my birds going, it keeps them chasing something, it keeps them mentally entertained, it keeps them physically fit, and it gives them some variety in what they're doing as well. And whether they enjoy it, I think they do. Birds get so revved up by it that you can really see it in them. When you know your falcons, you can just see them sat on the block and they're just, the wings are pumping, and they're raring to go. So it's very good for that sort of thing. One of the things we do, which is quite important to me, because I got into falconry very young, and there wasn't a massive support network there. It was awkward. My dad took me to meetings at my local falconry club, and we managed to find a few people who would take me out, but it was always like, oh, we're taking the kid out of this. And I imagine you probably have a thing with getting sponsors and mentors and together and putting people together. We've got no formal structure like you have over here. It is literally just trying to find somebody who will help you. And I was quite lucky that I found a couple of people who helped me through the early stages. But what we find with Ro Crow and the flat race competition, junior members of all the blue t-shirts are junior members. They belong to White Eyes Junior Falconry Club. They learn handling techniques. It's almost like coming through an apprenticeship system you have over here, that under supervision, they're taught how to handle birds, they're talking about weight management, they're talking about feeding, they're talking about variety of food, and they're taught about how to actually hunt. Think about hunting a falcon. They obviously, at their age, they can't go traipsing out and go rook hawking and crow hawking and things like that. But with a Ro Crow, they can start to look at how the falcon flies, how it positions itself, where to position, what you need to do, and they're gaining knowledge all the time. And then they're being able to come to Visalia races every year and actually put this in a big event, and they can stand there and they can race their falcons. And last year was the first year we had a junior hunt race category where juniors actually came and piloted on falcons. So it's growing in that way, and there's more juniors getting involved in it. Now, not all these juniors are going to go on to be budding falconers and keep it going, but what it does do is educates them, it educates their parents and educates their family circle and the people they know and their friends, so that their perception, if that guy on the end there stood there with one of my falcons, in 20 years' time, if he's a local MP or he's a councillor or he's a judge or a magistrate or something like that, when something comes up falcon related or something around, oh, I did that as a kid, there's nothing wrong with that, it was great fun. Rather than having this painted picture that the antis have, that hunting's bad, keeping falcons, they should all be flying around free. And we get a lot of this in the UK. There's a lot of anti-people who don't understand the countryside, they don't understand country sports, they don't understand falconry. So this is an educational tool just to teach this generation about handling birds, about falconry, about its traditions, about how far back it goes. And just the educational point is a really good, useful tool to us. So that's Visalia races in a nutshell. If ever you want to come over to the UK, it really is worth coming over. Just a little video, it is a little. I'll play this. I think some music on it, but this is Visalia Farm as we go in. It's only about 40 seconds long.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So that's the tail track. That's where they fly down through the two things. And this is the hunt race. So we have the same feelings you have over here. Paul Dillon, who's in there, he flew a really, really good female Geoperegrine at the races last year. And he put in an absolutely incredible time. And as the bird came down to come into the arena, he tried to time it so precisely, the bird beat him by about half a second, and she caught it just outside by about 4 inches. So as it landed on the tape, the Ro Crow wing was under the tape, there, and it was literally 2 foot out of winning, and that was a disqualification. So it's that tense when you're watching somebody fly, especially as a competitor. You're there and you're looking at your time, and your mate you fly with all the time, and you've helped him, and you've been enthusiastic. On that day, when you've got a 1:55 on the board, and you see this bird doing it in 1 minute, and you're like, maybe I shouldn't have helped him. And then you're there, and it's like, oh, it's 1:10, it's fine, now I've got it. Where are we up to? That's 17. So, okay, that takes me to Nick. Where have your slides gone? That takes me to the end of my bit on Ro Crows. I hope you found it interesting. I could talk about it for hours, and I don't want to bore everybody with loads and loads of technical details. But has anybody got any questions while I'm still stood up here? I can't rig it so you can win it.
So, when the Falcon hits the Ro Crow, do you kill the engine then, or do you give it some power coming down?
Yeah, no, you would kill the engine then, in all instances really. So when the Ro Crow lands, you try not to get any debris in there. There is the guard that you'll see on it. Come and have a look at the ones on the table. It stops a foot going in, it stops a jest going in, it stops any debris really going through there, but it's not infallible. So if you land this in a field that's just been plowed or just been cut, there's loads of loose soil, dry soil, it will get sucked through. And then the easiest way is just to run something round on the inside of it, or take the guard, just pull the guard out, and you can actually just wash it down or pour some water down there and just give it a little bit of a clean. So yeah, it's the best thing is just to cut your engine and let the Falcon just glide down with it and land on the floor.
So you're taking it to an idle or turning it off?
Turn it off, just pull it right back down to the base there, so it just shuts it off completely. On the more advanced one, on the Pro version, there's a switch to actually cut it that actually brakes the engine as well, so it applies a brake to it so it can't keep turning, because that motor will keep turning in as through the wind as the wind passes across it. Anybody else? Oh, wonderful. Okay, we need to fire. I'm going to pass you over to Dr. Fox.
Hello everybody. I've been asked to say a few words about how we hold crows in Britain. So I'm just going to say a few words and then I'm going to talk about you. So, we hawk up in Northumberland, where we have a good open landscape and it's mainly cattle and sheep country. You really need cattle and sheep for crows. They're a pest for sheep and that kind of thing, so the farmers welcome us. We, let's see where I am. We hawk in an area which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site with Hadrian's Wall, and we're actually standing on the line of Hadrian's Wall in this picture. And we have normally between about 6 and a dozen horses. Oh yeah, sorry, get rid of that. Yeah. Hang on. Thank you. So we have about 6 or a dozen horses. We don't want too many horses because the idea is that the horsemen are a part of the action. Okay, so I'm like Napoleon Bonaparte, and I order people to go all over the place on their horses. Because for those of you that know crows, what a crow's going to do is he's going to go for cover. And that cover could be a wood, could be a wall, could be a bush, it could be the horse that you're riding on, it could try and run underneath the horse. So we can anticipate a flight and put horsemen in the right position to be ready to stop the crow going into cover, or to get to the kill before any cattle come, because a lot of falcons get killed by cattle. So I've written a book about it. If you want to know more details about it, we've got a book, and that'll help you with the actual details. There's no time to go into details here. So that's what we do with our crow hawking. We do it in a traditional style with the green coats, which have been traditional since 1770, I think. People have hawked on our hawking ground, we know, for at least 13 centuries, so 670 was the earliest that we know of. So that was before my time. And actually in this picture you can see there's odd bits of colour, and what we don't really see in this picture is that actually some of these banks are quite steep. We do get broken bones with the field. Part of the thing is the sport of riding to hawks. So, say you're on foot, you don't want a flight to go too far, you might slip into the wind hoping it'll go forward and then back. That depends. If we've got a stronger wind, I'll slip straight downwind, and everyone will then have to go like shit off a shovel to keep up. And they'll all come back with a different story. And that's half the point of it, is to give them a good ride. Anyway, I was asked to talk a little bit about falconry generally, and you have very similar problems here to the problems we have in Britain. If you look around you, you will see a lot of white hair. A lot of more senior citizens, I would say. And actually, I did look up on the internet the demographics of California, the different cohorts of age groups, and I can see, without even counting you all, that you are very much pushed up towards the older end of the demographics, and in Britain we're just the same. So, this is a time bomb for the club. In another 10 years, a lot of you won't be here. Now, I first came here in 1978, and I stayed with Tony Robertson, who was president at that time, and we hawked teal down at Santa Ana, I think it was. It's all high-rise buildings now, gone. And in those days, we had the Beach Boys busy bouncing, we had Bob Dylan busy protesting, we wore flares, and we were all young and hopeful, and somebody discovered that the Harris hawk could catch things and was a useful tool, and captive breeding, we were just starting. We got Tom Cade and Jim Weaver with the P Fund. Down here at Santa Cruz you had Brian Walton. And we were all busy developing breeding techniques, and we were just at the very start of telemetry, which was a game changer. So those of us that were sort of 1980 or so will remember how we had to keep the discipline of hawking with no telemetry, only with bells. And I'm deaf in one ear, so I can't tell directions either, so it's not very good. At that time, I just got my first calculator. We didn't have computers, we didn't have mobile phones. All that was to come. So in the intervening time between 78 and now, we have had to, we progressed in falconry, we've used technology and so on, and what Dave has been talking to you about is just sort of latest developments in the technology for falconry. The other thing that I've done is, you may know that UNESCO has a convention on intangible cultural heritage, and I wrote the submission for falconry for 11 countries, and now 24 countries have been inscribed. And I learned two things in the process of doing that. When we talk about heritage, we're not talking about history, we're not talking about what we did in '78. Heritage is actually a baton that we carry, that we pass on to the next generation. It's about the future, and it's our responsibility while we're holding that baton to find people to pass it on to. So that's the heritage. Now the other thing they taught me was that with heritage, it's not just about, okay, that's how we did it and that's how we're always going to do it. No. Heritage can evolve. It has to evolve. If we don't evolve, we die. It has to go forward. So, although older ones think, well, it's got to be like this, sadly, we have to accept that the world is what it is. And at the moment, we've got less and less hunting grounds, less and less game, more and more sort of traffic, and people, and wires, and everything else. And it's just getting worse. So that's why we started to look at some solutions. And I would urge you to think about this baton business for the club and how to take it forward. It's really tricky. So my vision was, I want to preserve our hunting falcons as hunting falcons. And I want to preserve falconry for future generations. And as part of that, I wanted to create a public racing event, not a private racing event, a public one. So for our falcons, now we can breed lots of falcons and many other species. This is really good. You know, they're not a limiting factor anymore. We're all dressed up, but we've got nowhere to go. You know, lovely, lovely falcons. But also, as we breed them, some of our falcons at home are in their 15th generation now. So either you breed specifically for certain characteristics, or you breed trying to keep it sort of true to wild type because it may be needed for release or something like that. So we want to know if they're going to be good hunters. Are they going to be that 30% that would have survived in the wild, or are they going to be the 70% that would have died in the wild? We need to test them before we breed from them. We need to test their climb rates, their stooping, their hunting style, and their catching abilities. If you look at this one, try and work out if that's anatomically possible to get into that position. And later I'll ask you what the bird is. It's one of Helen's. And obviously, is Kevin here somewhere? Marshall have really made progress now with the GPS tags. We can use them in training, and we can start doing all sorts of science on the thing, so much so that we're overwhelmed with data, we can't keep up with it all. Over the last 7 years, we've developed the hunt race. Now, the hunt race has evolved from the flights that we see at crows. A good flight of crows is the hunt race, pretty much. And And now we have got many teams in the UK training falcons for racing, and we've got a tried and tested set of rules. Every year we just refine them slightly as new contingencies arise and so on. So we know what we're doing. Now, we've designed the Ro Crow, okay, there it is. But to design an event is another thing altogether, all right? Because we want an event which will be of interest not just to you guys, because you're falcons, but to general public that would find it exciting to see a falcon chasing. So we want to pull in some of the public to be sympathetic towards falconry and possibly to have young people like you getting involved. And then we looked at all sorts of types of races, from Formula One to football to horse racing and show jumping. And we had to come up with something that you could complete in one day and have a winner, and which did not require a judge. We wanted something with clear endpoints rather than someone's opinion. Now we do have a judge just to make sure if there's an action replay, did it touch the ground first or not, that kind of thing. But we have clear endpoints, so there's no argument about who the winner is. The other thing is we noticed, and we've been to quite a lot of competitions in Europe with balloons and drones and that kind of thing. The public and a lot of people nowadays don't want to wait while a falcon takes like 3 minutes to circle up or even longer. They lose concentration, they start talking to each other and they get bored. So we've got to have it that the whole thing stays exciting, people stay engaged with the event. And that's how we've evolved the hunt race.
The first sound of the horn starts the clock. It signals that the Ro Crow can be launched and the hood can be removed. The falcon must now reach an altitude of 120 meters, that's 400 feet. The pilot can use any part of the sky, though a skilled pilot and a well-conditioned falcon will fly into the wind for the whole duration of the climb. It's generally better to keep the Ro Crow on the nose of the falcon to draw her rapidly upwards. Flying the Ro Crow up and away from the falcon is safer for the pilot, but it often reduces the falcon's rate of climb. The second horn will sound when the falcon reaches 120 meters. After the second horn, she must be encouraged to stoop to 50 meters, that's 165 feet, as quickly as possible by propelling the Ro Crow downwards. Once she's descended to 50 meters, the third horn will sound, starting a timer lasting 30 seconds. The pilot can do whatever they like, but they must not be caught until after the next horn sounds. The pilot will aim to be caught the moment the fourth horn sounds, and will be planning the trajectory of the falcon and the Ro Crow so that they come together in the ring at the right instant. The final horn will sound when the Ro Crow, the falcon and the ground are all in contact together. This final time is her race result.
So that's how the hunt race works. We've actually reduced the bottom of the stoop to 30 metres. So a poor old pilot, which might be Dave, has a falcon below 30 metres. He's just stooped and he's rather cross. He's got no flying room himself. He's got to get out of that, and often the pilot will find that they get killed by the falcon trying to throw out and avoid the falcon will cut off, anticipate and whack you. The other thing is, I don't know who designed this race, but whoever it was a fiend. Because the arena, which is 100 metres square, has a white tape to mark it, and the tape is a foot off the ground, right? 5 metres outside that arena is another arena, which is the crowd barrier. Right? So you've got people and a visible barrier, but the arena is the white tape. And those of you that know falcons, they don't really like coming down in the open, and eagle might get them. If they can, especially gosses, for example, and the small exhibitors, the micros, they don't want to be down on a kill in the open, so they will tend to, if they can, just go towards the crowd barrier or somewhere where they're out of the way. And that'll take them over the tape, which will give them 30 seconds penalty points, which means they're out of the winning enclosure. So the idea of the competition is to test the falcon, obviously, to provide a spectacle, but you want it so that you've got excitement, anticipation, and this is what falconry is about. It's about disappointment as well as success. Our disappointment defines our success. It's our hopes coming up, and then they go down, and then they go up again. That's falconry. So we can emulate that in the competition. And the crowds love it because the action is right over their heads. And sometimes it comes down right in amongst them as well. It makes it exciting to watch and attracts sort of normal people who aren't falconers. That means that it takes it to, I mean, this is from a French newspaper actually. It means that the newspaper and media can pick up on it. And because there are no wild animals involved, we don't have welfare issues, we can show it online or wherever we like on the TV without welfare issues. This is our factory where we make them. As I say, there's the highs and lows. It's very hard to predict who's going to win. So it's not a straightforward scientific contest because there's so many things can go wrong just when you think you've won. And nor can you cheat. So it's an open race till the end. And we like to see a nice vertical stoop. This is with the V1 model. We have facilities at the farm near Swindon, which is about an hour west of London, between London and Bristol. So we have good communications and hotels. We have 2 hunt race courses and 3 flat race courses. So, you may notice that I'm in this picture somewhere, which is not very good, but what I found was that in these races, I'm often the only white head there. All the rest are young people, and often they're in their teens. And that's very different to when I go to a field meet with the British Falconers Club, for example, where it tends to be older people. And I think there's a lesson for us to learn there. What we find with the young people is they're so used to twiddling their thumbs, aren't they, Arthur? With their computer games, that they take to the technology better than us old folk do. And it's quite humiliating when you get a young chap like this. After about 15 minutes, he's doing barrel rolls. And it's taken me like 2 years to learn how to do that. So we often find that we've got children piloting for their dad with his falcon. And that pulls them into the whole thing. So the next races are in September. do come and have a go. What we have done, and I might actually just throw the gauntlet down, shall I, Dave? What we have done,
Yes, Nick.
when we can't easily bring a falcon from America to Britain. It's a pain in the butt. But we get continentals coming to race from Spain and Hungary and Croatia and all sorts of places. Where if they can't bring a falcon, sometimes we lend them one of our falcons, and they take it a couple of days before the races, practice their piloting. Obviously, you need to get your piloting sorted out. If you want, we'll have a California Hawking Club team represented at the races. I'll get you one of my Crow Falcons. You can adopt it for the weekend, and it'll be interesting. So, any questions either to me or to Dave? Dave, do you come up the front? If nobody asks you a question, I'll ask you one.
You can ask
Oh, there's one at the back somewhere. Yeah, at the back.
Do you guys do like on-site gambling on winners? And
Well, that's a very good question. We have been discussing the pros and cons of gambling. Of course, the Arabs aren't allowed to gamble, supposedly. So they just have massive prizes instead. Gambling has its pros and cons. What do you reckon, Dave?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a few sideways going on in little places around there. Telling who's in the fashion things.
We do have a bottle of champers or whiskey, don't we? We have one for the
We've also got
most memorable.
we've got a trophy called the Chick Trophy, which was introduced after Jim Chick and Angie Chick, who were a father and daughter who did loads and loads of falconry through how many years, Nick? Loads.
Oh, many years.
Many years, and sadly they both passed away last year. So we had a Chick Award done, which I managed to win, which is for the most memorable flight, and that doesn't have to be because it was spectacular or because it was good. It was actually on this occasion because I came down into the arena flat out to the stoop, so probably somewhere near 80 miles an hour, and the rubber band broke. And I hit the fence, and I shredded the Ro Crow like a cheese grater. And it got a huge cheer. So I won the Chick Award. And I've also been in the pond, just to the left of the pavilion there, there's a pond, it's duckweed, and my falcon caught it and landed in the pond. So there's me and Dylan, who are the only two people who've been in the pond, so now apparently we've got a plaque on the pond, and you get your name on the plaque if you've ended up in the pond with a Ro Crow and a falcon. So yeah, so there's a lot of interesting bits to it, but as of yet we're not gambling on it now. Anybody else? Oh yeah, let's go over there.
the entry fee.
Entry fee is £50, so it's per race, which is about $60 somewhere around there.
Is that £50 a falcon?
Yeah, £50 per falcon.
Does that get you a free entry as well to the?
Yeah, so that gets, so if you enter as a competitor, you obviously get free entry into the event. So all the trade stands and everything else, there's camping and all those sort of things. So a lot of the teams will bring, some bring just one falcon, but most teams are bringing sort of 2 or 3 falcons. They might have one that specialises in the flat race, they'll have another, maybe 2 falcons for the hunt race. So they divide it up a little bit, and we've got our junior categories. So our categories are, for the flat race we have junior, we have novice, and that's novice falcon, not novice falconer, which is we have to point that out to people. It's not a novice falconer, it's a novice bird. So it's a bird that's never raced at our races before. And then we have the open class, which is open to any bird, so you can enter a bird that's never raced before. But because there's lots of crowds, lots of people, lots of things like it's a bit more of a thing than most events you go to. So a lot of the falcons are used to 1 person, 2 people in the field. They suddenly get there, there's tannoys and there's all sorts of things. So we put novice falcons in the category together, and they go through to the junior, the hunt race side of it. We have a junior hunt race, a novice hunt race, and an open hunt race, which are held on different days as well. And again, the junior hunt race is a new one we started. And Honeybrook Farm, I don't know whether anybody may have heard of Honeybrook. They supply hawk food throughout the UK. They do to Europe as well, I think they do in places, don't they? Nick Hoffman-Mart, who owns Honeybrook, has sponsored our juniors this year. So the junior competitors will get their places paid for by Honeybrook to encourage them to come along, to encourage them to actually come and enter races and come and participate. And again, with the hunt race pilots, because our juniors, you know, we've got in the room, they can take this, they can learn to fly it, and then we can give them some lessons, we do some training days for them, and then if they haven't got access to a hunt race falcon, we've got to pull the falcons, and all the big teams will put a couple of falcons into it and let the juniors have a falcon they can chase in the actual arena. So again, we're pulling more juniors and the younger generation in. Anybody else?
Dave, can you use the Ro Crow to transition the bird to waiting on? Maybe some combination of the drone and the Ro Crow?
It's certainly possible. I've not done it specifically with a falcon for that. I did have a waiting on geoperegrine that I used on game, and I introduced him to the Ro Crow. He wasn't the best falcon at chasing it straight behind it. He wanted to go off and he wanted to climb and he wanted to stoop it. So what I did after a few weeks of him chasing it was actually just let him go, and he'd go up to his usual pitch, which was about 350, 400 feet, which is a killing pitch in the UK. You're actually going to kill game from that pitch in the UK because our fields are massive, wide open spaces. And he'd wait on over me like he would, and then I would just throw the Ro Crow out underneath him, and then he'd stoop it like he'd stoop anything else. And you just avoid him and then let him catch you. So it can be done. Just in principle, there's no reason why you couldn't put it on the Ro Crow and then throw a Ro Crow underneath.
I should say, Dave showed you a picture of a cock pheasant, roe cock pheasant.
Yes.
Now, we can ground launch this thing. So, we have like two little pole things.
Yeah.
Like rails, with the Ro Crow on and a bungee cord and a pull trigger. So you can have your roe pheasant or roe grouse, whatever it is, down on the ground, not visible, and then when you want to, if your bird's where you want it, or if it's a goshawk, you know, you're wanting to simulate just walking up the pheasant, and it then flushes, not in association with you. It's not you chucking it. You can just suddenly produce a pheasant that will launch. Obviously, once it's used the energy from the bungee cord to get in the air, the pilot's got to take over and give it some welly. But so you can ground launch for a game hog or an exhibitor that way.
Now you've mentioned scissors. The goshawk that was in the photo, I didn't even mention on it. So when I flew him on the Ro Crow, one of the things I did get him doing was chasing around at low level on a banking turn, and then out. So he wouldn't climb like a falcon or didn't tend to. I had him up the highest was about 120 feet, but I never really tried to get him to do that. But I did have him flying it 1,500 metres to 2,000 metres, which for a goshawk flight is a long way. In the UK, I don't know how far your exhibitor flights go over here and how far it's chasing pheasants, but a goshawk doing 1,000 metre to 1,500 metre flight, flat out pumping, he was a fit hawk. And he can do it with that because he knows he's going to catch it. He knows he's going to catch it at the end. All he's got to do is stay on it and close that gap. And then again, just as he's going, we just pull the throttle back slightly and slow it down so he can see he's closing the gap. As long as he can feel he's closing the gap, you're not just pulling away, they will keep on it. And then you've got a really fit bird that will stay on quarry, which is a big advantage of the field. Anybody else?
There's one. Brad.
Do you combine the lure machine in an event at this one for goshawks, hare socks, or is that a different time and place?
No, so we don't have anything in our races for accipiters or hawks or goshawks, harris hawks, anything like that. We're purely falcons. So there's people flying down to Aplomados, you know, people who fly female Aplomados on road prey, all the way up to female Falcons. There's quite a few people flying tearsaws in Ro Crows and these sort of things. There's a few people flying goshawks at it, but as of yet, nothing else. But not in the competitions. We don't open that up to red-tailed harrises, anything else. No. Anybody else? Wonderful, brilliant. It has been an absolute pleasure to be here.
So Dave, tomorrow night we're raffling off the Roga.
Yeah. Yeah. So tomorrow evening we're advertising. We're raffling off the Road Duck, which is here. If anybody wants to see it, it's on the table in the other room. And there's 2 books. There's the Understanding the Bird and Prey, the latest version of by Nick Fox. There's also Hunting Ethics, which is Nick Fox's latest book. They're both on the table there if you want to see them. And they'll both be. Are they raffled, auction, or what are you doing with them? They're going to raffle. $20 a ticket. $20 a ticket. There you go.
Thank you, guys. Mike Mansky is going to talk about the Sky Trials tomorrow, but I just want to make a comment that Mike spent about $3,000 buying Sky Trial shirts. And I would just like to, he's going to lose it if he doesn't sell them. And so I would just encourage everybody, if you can, to buy a Sky Trial shirt from Mike so he doesn't have to pay for the whole cost.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. Sky Trials, everyone. Let's keep it down. How about that Visalia fog, right? Awesome. Yeah. My nightmare came true. Now I know why Dave Cherry passed this along to me. A lot of stress, and he knew it was going to be in Visalia this year. So what we're going to do, we have a plan A and a plan B, and a plan B is going to be up to you guys. Hopefully, maybe. Plan A is we are going to meet at the same field that we had the lure flying competition at noon. And hope and pray that we get some opening in the clouds. Some apps say it's going to be just like today, and there's a few apps that say we might get some clearing as soon as 11:30. So we will see. Plan B is if anyone in this room has a spot or knows of a spot, because I've had a lot of people ask me, why don't you just move it somewhere else? Well, so we're about 11 hours away from the Sky Trial. So there's a challenge there. We already got a porta potty, the food truck there, and permission from the landowner. But if anyone has a spot within an hour that they're pretty sure there's going to be some sun and that we could fit 50 cars and 100 people with permission, please, please, please let me know. Otherwise, we're just going to do our best and hope that the skies open up for us. So that's the deal with the Sky Trials. I'm still hoping everyone can come. We can, make sure the guy who came down here and spent an extra 3 hours this morning waiting for us to do a lure flying competition can at least feed us around noon. So maybe we just have beers and lunch, but hopefully we get some flying in. Okay, so that's it for the Sky Trials. We're going to go ahead and proceed that they're going to happen, whether it's at that field or another spot. So I need all the falconers who are going to participate to come up here, or we'll find a spot over here. We're going to draw numbers, and hopefully we can put on a good show for everybody. Thank you.